Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, autism, OCD, SMLD, Down syndrome. Hello and welcome to another English podcast with Paul. I'm your host, Paul. Right, if you're interested, crank up that volume, plug in your headphones and listen to me in your car radio. But please do focus on the road if you're in a car. Okay, that being said, today we're talking about autism. Autism. It has a very ununderstood. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't. It doesn't, right. The word autism and things surrounding autism are often misunderstood. There are stereotypes, there are people with misconceptions. That's what I wanted to say. Misconceptions and misnomers. Misconceptions. Okay. Preconceived ideas, things like this. All right, okay. So, as always, this is unedited and unedited and unscripted. Okay. But I do have notes, so you will see me looking down occasionally if you're watching this. If you're not watching it and you're listening to me, I am bowing my head like this. Just a joke. Right, I have a face for radio, they say. A face for radio. Okay, so autism, what is it? Well, it's kind of perceived that the brain is wired differently to other people's brains, to the majority of people. So there's lots of different diagnoses and different parts of autism. Now, they say that everybody is on a spectrum of autism. Okay, at one end you have very little traits or telltale signs or parts of autism, and yet on the other end they say, it's obvious that you're very autistic. So what is autism? Autism, like I said, is the brain being wired differently. Now, again, I've said before, I am not a doctor, I am not an expert. But I have worked with people with autism for over 15 years, and I have some qualifications in the industry. Right. So, like I said, there's different diagnoses meaning different things, as I said in the intro. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. That's kind of like on one end. That's a lot of energy and unable to focus with lots of energy. Then you got other things like OCD, and that is more where you have these ideas in your head how things should be organized, often organized or cleaned, or routines and rituals. Obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD. And then we have the other end. We have like Down syndrome, for example, is one name that many people use to describe some people with autism. Often people with Down syndrome are depicted or described as having larger features, maybe on their face or on their body, and a different shape. That is not always the case. And then we have SMLD, severe multiple learning difficulties. Now, this can be from somebody that has little to no movement of their body and no communication and very little sensory input or output. In the West, in the UK, they're kind of classified as severe and multiple, so many different types of learning disabilities. Okay, LD, learning disabilities. So that is just a little look at autism, the overall branching idea of what most people think it is. So like I said, it's the brain acting differently. Now, on one end, you have those that are high functioning, those people that are in many industries and many walks of life that you wouldn't know has autism or learning disabilities or other ailments where they're not the same as everybody else. So sometimes, like I said, you would not even know. This can often be thought of as a person that doesn't like social situations or doesn't know how to work in social situations. Often these people can become very productive and focused. And in the past, there's been examples of people that are very wealthy from working diligently, especially over details. I'm not going to name celebrities or famous people, but many people that are very, very hyper focused and not easily distracted are often very wealthy from being able to work diligently, as I just said. Also, you have some people with lots and lots of energy that are unable to focus, say, on detail, but really get on well with other aspects in their life, such as sports or physical hands-on approach to work, whether they be a mechanic or a gardener or some other kind of hands-on worker. Maybe they work in agriculture with their body, with animals or with tractors or with farming. So there is a lot of people that you wouldn't even know had autism. They just get on with themselves, get on with their life, and often work very, very hard. Something that a lot of people don't understand, and this is really the answer. This is really the answer of why or how somebody might know if they have a diagnosis of autism or ADHD, learning difficulties, something like that. This is kind of the answer, and the answer is generally the word abstract. Abstract. So a person with learning disabilities or on this spectrum, let's go for learning disabilities right now. Learning disabilities on the spectrum of autism often cannot understand the idea of abstract. So just for a very simple example, if you told somebody to pull their socks up, metaphorically speaking, you would expect them to say, oh, right, yeah, I need to work harder, I need to focus, I need to do better at my job, or whatever else that it is, what they're doing. Maybe they're in school. But somebody with autism would bend over and pull their socks up their shins. So often a person with autism would struggle to understand abstract. Now, we can see this in another way in regards to social cues. Often a person with autism would struggle to understand social cues and often would prefer not to be involved with parties or social interaction because they don't understand body language, facial expression, or intonation with a person's voice. Because the abstract, as we know it, we learn from a very young age. Take, for example, a child that may draw a picture of a house. They draw the square, and then they put a triangle on top of that. They might even draw a chimney, and almost always with smoke coming out the top. Now, a child has never seen an actual square with a triangle on top, with a chimney, with smoke coming out. That's kind of like not a real thing. But the children are able to understand that given all different types of houses, this one house that they draw, or one house that we show them or tell them what is a house, is a visual representation of all the different types of houses into one icon, an icon. So if you draw a picture of a round circle and then a line down from that circle, and then off of that line down, two other lines going out in different directions, and then a line across the middle, you and I would often think that as a stick man or a stick person. So that stick is an icon that represents a human. But you and I know that no human looks like a stick. This is just not real. It's the abstract idea of something drawn in an image. Okay? And then you can take that further in regards to like things that are signage that you might see while driving. Meaning like, I don't know, something that means cliff with rocks falling off, or the dock, or a railway line and a train. These images are not real representation of the real world, but just an icon that we can acknowledge and recognize and agree on as a symbol for the real thing. So people with autism cannot understand the idea of an abstract icon that we connect with real life. So a person with autism would often organize their life in boxes of, well, this is, and if you ask them to draw a person, they would say, which person? Who? Who exactly? They find it very difficult to group together many different things as one topic. So like I said before, if you asked an autistic person to pull up their socks, they would bend over and pull up their socks, literally. So phrases and words of abstract are elusive and very difficult to understand. So that's a brief idea of the issue with autism and how it connects with the real world. Autistic people organize and are very specific, whereas much of the human race tries to make their life a lot easier to deal with and easier for their brain and to input data by using all sorts of icons and diagrams, layouts. This is very difficult for people with autism. And also with expressions, body language and facial expressions. Facial expressions on a human is part of the message they're conveying to the other person. And sometimes animals and dogs dogs and children will often see that a human's words do not correlate with their body actions. So understanding empathy, where when a teacher bends down onto their knee and speaks in a soft voice and tries to engage with a child, that child sees the correlation between their actions, their voice, and what their instructions are. But on the opposite side to that, if you said to a child an instruction in a loud, harsh voice, whilst not paying attention or not giving any connection with that child, then the child would feel disconnected with the message and confused. And this is what happens with people with autism. They feel very, very confused with people's body language and facial expressions, along with the verbal message that's being conveyed. They often are confusing. So, where does it leave us? That leaves us with the understanding that the world is not designed for people with autism. But much like many other illnesses or diagnoses, you can't make it go away. You can't make somebody not be autistic. Now, the term learning disability expands to autism because a person may slowly over time learn new things. Generally they are disabled in their learning, that they haven't or unable to pick up as quickly as many of us are, these icons and these clues that we group together. But one of the good things about this world and about the West often is our progression of our understanding and learning and sharing with others how we can improve the lives of people with autism. So some very, very clever people have come up with other ways to help communicate. So for example, sign language and total communication, images and actions. So using multiple media to convey a message to a person with autism will help or can help. And that is something we do with children many times these days. You'll see in nurseries sign language, because sign language and total communication is a lot quicker and easier to pick up and learn than the intricacies of modern language. So schools are a great place to see how things are moving forward to help individuals with autism, dealing and living with autism. All right. So, and one of those things that I wanted to cover was about how things haven't changed much. If you look at the car over 100 years, it's still got 4 wheels in each corner, seats, and a steering wheel, and often a horn. And then you look at how the phone has changed over 100 years. There's a lot of differences. That car would have been a cart with a noisy engine and bumpy and slow. That car has changed. The fundamentals that make it a car, that icon, the 4 wheels and a steering wheel, that makes it a car, that iconic. But it has changed beyond recognition in its sleekness, its design, its efficiency of the engine and its comfort. So much has changed with that car. And likewise with the telephone. The telephone still communicates sounds across the airwaves and now digitally. It has come so far, now we have so much on our smartphones, almost unrecognizable. A telephone now to 100 years ago, and a car now to 100 years ago. But ask yourself, how about the classroom? Has the classroom changed much in 100 years? Lots and lots of students all sat down and a teacher at the front giving commands on a board. Now, doesn't take a lot to realize that the classroom has not changed much at all in 100 years. And so the point of this is to discuss how it is for young people with autism or ADHD and also ADD. Young people that are affected, and they don't know they are affected. They just understand they have more energy and they cannot concentrate the same as everybody else. And these children get varnished and brushed with the term that they are naughty or they're misbehaving or they're not good students because they learn differently. And it's not their choice. They don't choose not to want to sit down. But these young students, often young boys, are full of energy and excitement and enthusiasm. They are struggling to fit in to modern society in a school. There's many studies done to show that boys learn better when they're moving and doing things. That's probably why boys like sports so much and running around so much. But it's not just boys. Girls also are not being supported as much as they could be in schools. So I feel it just comes down to education. It would be good if we could educate more people in understanding that autism is not a choice. People do not choose to be autistic. It's the way their brain and their body is wired and made. You cannot undo it, you cannot change it. You can only help that individual on the inside lead a more fulfilling and happier life. Okay, we said about that. So one of the other things I was going to mention was about, like I said about schools, is about different types of school. So there's two really big popular school methodologies that's different to the mainstream that come to mind. And that's the Waldorf school, also known as the Rudolf Steiner school, or just Steiner school, Rudolf Steiner. And this attitude and way of teaching is very different, very much more in the holistic, using all parts of a child's environment and curiosity to spark learning. Amazing, amazing way of teaching. Also, Montessori, Madame Montessori school, also is very much about respecting for the environment and a holistic approach to learning. There are also some negatives about these schools, but in the whole, they are very different and is more about the child learning compared to our traditional schools where a child has to memorize and learn by rote over and over and over and over and over again the same thing until they get stuck in their brain. So in summary, there's a lot we can do for ourselves to educate ourselves, educate society, our friends, our family, and be involved with making the awareness of autism more accessible and making the awareness of autism broader and wider, because it's a positive thing that we can help these people with autism to lead happier and healthier lifestyles. Also, and there are societies that are set up and charities set up to help with this. So we don't have to start from scratch. There's the Autistic Spectrum Society and many other societies that help promote the awareness of autism. Food for thought. So, in the comments below, where on this autistic spectrum are you? Are you full of energy and can't focus and always looking at the next thing and go, 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 go? Or are you on the other side of this spectrum? Things calm, gentle, focus, details. If we're all on a spectrum, where are you? Let me know in the comments. Let's make this conversation move. Let's open up this conversation. Tell me if you know of somebody that has autism, or if you suffer from autism yourself. Let me know in the comments. And that's it for today. So thank you very much for listening and watching. And as always, have fun learning English. Have fun. If you don't enjoy it, you're not going to learn it. Have fun. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye for now.